there's a stereotype that's kind of going around and has been going around for a long time, that when you have a failed compressor, that you are required to change the inverter board. Now, there's this theory and idea that we change the inverter board because it could have possibly made the compressor go bad. I'm here to tell you that that is bull crap, right? So think about what an inverter compressor is at its core. An inverter compressor is a three-phase electric motor, right? An AC electric motor, not a DC electric motor. Now, there are certain manufacturers out there in the VRF world, as well as other parts of the air conditioning sector, where they use DC-driven motors. However, for the sake of this argument and conversation regarding VRF equipment, it is a three-phase electric motor. Now, sure, could things happen where the motor may overamp or overdraw current? Of course, right? A ground out within the compressor would cause the compressor to fail anyways. However, unless we are talking about an inverter board being grounded, a hard ground between line to line or line to ground, causing damage to that compressor is extremely slim. Not to mention that, but also we have the abilities, understanding that one, we have access to a service manual, but two, we have access to multimeters that if we combine the two together, we can actually determine if that inverter board is in fact faulty. We have the ability to check the diode bridge, which actually allows us to change AC voltage to DC voltage. And in that process, we can also check the IGBTs electrically on the opposite and forward and backwards bias, right? When I say forward backwards bias, we're talking about applying voltage to one way and the opposite way of the actual electrical circuit to determine if those IGBTs are stuck open, if they're stuck closed. And again, obviously you won't know until you actually start the equipment. Now, again, if I find a grounded compressor, I'm checking electrically my inverter board. I am not just changing them out saying to the customer that inverter boards can cause compressors to go bad, right? That's not a thing. I don't know where that came from, but it's got to stop now, right? That's a myth. It does not actually take place. Again, unless you check the compressor and then you check the inverter board and you see that the inverter board actually is grounded, right? Or there's a connection between line 1 and line 2, or line 2 and line 3, right? Those are what we considered hard grounds. Those hard grounds can cause high amp draw, which causes high heat, which causes copper to melt, which can cause a compressor to short circuit, right? But again, these are things that we can check with our multimeters. So whoever you are out there who needs to hear this, changing converter compressors and also changing the inverter boards because, hey, they could both be bad. Oh, no, they're not both bad unless you've checked it electrically through the service manual to determine that it is bad. Now, again, okay, I'll admit the service manuals, they're a little difficult to read, and it's also sometimes difficult to find. However, there is a tech tip that I created about checking inverter boards and also where to place your meter leads. Remember, every inverter circuit is the same as a VFD drive. We're taking AC voltage, converting it to DC voltage. We all know how to check a diode. There's actually a function on your multimeter that allows you to check it. It's called diode check, right? And then the other side, again, IGBTs, we have the ability to also check those forward and reverse to ensure that they're not stuck in one position or failed and have no reading either way. These are checks that we can do to determine if a board is failed. Now, again, you may find that 1 in a million where you change the compressor and find out that the inverter board just won't start, right? It won't charge its capacitors. It won't do the things that it's supposed to, or there's some kind of internal damage to it. However, making it a rule of thumb to change every single inverter board with every single compressor failure you have without doing any further diagnostics to determine if the two are connected or even related is just poor practice, right? Let's be better than that. Let's get better together and understand that is not a common practice and should not be done. Well, then you're going to say, well, Roman, the inverter boards are under warranty. It doesn't matter, right? This isn't about just throwing a bunch of parts in a unit that we haven't done any checks on to determine, hey, she runs great now, that board's trash, right? This is how we kind of get into ourselves with a parts shortage by changing a bunch of A1P boards. Yes, I'm looking at you, Daikin Call Center, condemning every A1P board out there on the planet. We get shortages on parts because people order them with routine repairs when they're not needed. Again, we're smarter than that, guys, and you're better than that. Do your due diligence, check your inverter boards along with your failure compressor, and condemn them accordingly. Do not just shoot the parts cannon at the unit because it's easy. We don't do VRF because it's easy. We do it because we enjoy the challenge. We put in the work, right? And we educate ourselves further to understand the connection between the two. Okay, that's my rant for today on the way home. Appreciate you guys.